It's just beautiful, isn't it? It's mesmerizing. It's double helix exciting. You really can tell just by looking at it how sort of important and amazing it is. It's pretty much the most complicated molecule that exists, and potentially the most important one. It's so complex that we didn't even know for sure what it looked like until about 60 years ago. It's so multifariously awesome that if you took all of it from just one of our cells and untangled it, it would be taller than me. Now consider that there are probably 50 trillion cells in my body right now. Laid end to end, the DNA in those cells would stretch to the sun not once, but 600 times. Mind blown yet? Of course you know, I'm talking about deoxyribonucleic acid, known to its friends as DNA. DNA is what stores our genetic instructions, the information that programs all of our cells' activities. It's a 6 billion letter code that provides the assembly instructions for everything that you are. And it does the same thing for pretty much every other living thing. I'm going to go out on a limb here and assume that you are a human, in which case every body cell that you have, or somatic cell, in you has 46 chromosomes, each containing one big DNA molecule. These chromosomes are packed together tightly with proteins in the nucleus of the cell.
So let's take a look at the nucleus of a cell. Inside each nucleus are the chromosomes, 46 little bundles of complexity, which you get from your parents. With a very few exceptions, every cell in your body, 99.99999% of them, carries the exact same copy of chromosomes. Chromosomes have the complete set of instructions necessary to make and maintain you, and are made of long strands of deoxyribonucleic acid, or DNA, which has been called by some the most extraordinary molecule on Earth. We saw first semester how DNA was wound up and packed up to make a chromosome, so let's zoom in to take a look. The shape of a DNA molecule is like a spiral staircase or a twisted rope ladder called a double helix. You've probably heard of that before. Earlier in the year, we talked about the subunits that are linked together to make up carbohydrates. Do you remember what they are? Good. DNA is also made up of units that are linked together, and they are called nucleotides. Every nucleotide is made of a sugar, phosphate, and base. I always remember this because nucleotides linked together make up nucleic acids. Let's go back and look at that double helix. Each one of these is a nucleotide, and linked together they make DNA. Let's think of this as a ladder. The uprights of this structure are made of sugar and phosphate. The rungs or steps are bases. DNA has 4 different nucleotides, and the only thing that is different about them are the bases. The 4 bases are thymine, adenine, cytosine, and guanine. Don't worry, you don't have to memorize those names, but we're going to refer to those nucleotides quite a bit, and we're just going to use the letters. So T, A, C, and G. DNA is a double helix, which means it has 2 sides, the double part. The nucleotides on one side join with the nucleotides on the other. Imagine a line of people holding hands, with people standing in another line. The nucleotides can combine in only 2 ways. G is always paired with C, and T always with A. And these are called base pairs because they pair up with each other. This is pretty key to understanding how DNA works, so here's how I remember it. If you can remember the letters, write them out in alphabetical order. A, C, G, T. The 2 outside letters always pair up, and the 2 inside letters always pair up. The order in which these bases appear up and down the DNA ladder spell out the language known as the genetic code. That's like having an alphabet of just 4 letters. Each length of DNA that you have has roughly 3.2 billion letters of coding. That's crazy. That order determines, for example, whether you are a chimp, a cow, a banana, or a human. A Of all the DNA that is jammed into the nucleus, only here and there along each strand do you actually find sections that control traits like eye color, blood type, and so on. These sections of DNA are called genes. Only 2 to 3% of that long strand of DNA actually codes for genes. Scientists are just beginning to find out what that other 97% does. There's still a great deal about DNA that we don't fully understand. If you lined up all of the DNA containing all of your genes, it would measure 6 feet long, and it can be coiled so tightly that it's going to fit into the nucleus. The nucleus contains 99.9% of your genes, and the rest are found in your mitochondria. You have nearly 20,000 genes. Genes are basically recipes for making proteins. These recipes are passed down from parents to children, generation after generation. So when someone says you have your father's hair, what they mean is you appear to have inherited a gene or genes from your father that makes a protein that instructs your hair follicle cells to produce hair that curls like your father's. Whew! That is a mouthful. It's much easier just to say you have your father's hair. Genes tell a cell how to function and what traits to express. Let's think of another way to sum all of this up. Our entire genetic code is like a cookbook for the body. The chromosomes can be imagined as the book's chapters, and the genes as individual recipes for making proteins. What happens if we need a new cell, as our bodies do over and over again? How do we get a new copy of DNA? When DNA is copied, the process is called replication. We already talked about mitosis, and before a cell goes through mitosis, it needs to make a copy of each chromosome. When it is time to produce a new DNA molecule, the two strands part down the middle, like the zipper on a jacket, and each half goes off to form a new partnership. Because each nucleotide along a strand pairs up with a specific other nucleotide, each strand serves as a template for the creation of a new matching strand. If you possessed just one strand of your own DNA, you could easily reconstruct the matching side by just figuring out the base pairs. If the topmost rung on one strand was made of guanine, then you would know that the topmost rung on the matching strand must be cytosine. That's right. Work your way down the ladder through all the nucleotide pairings, and eventually you would have the code for a new DNA molecule. That is just what happens in nature. It's happening in your body right now, except that nature does it really quickly in only a matter of seconds. How could DNA possibly write the story of life with such a simple alphabet? T, A, C, G. Well, that's what we want to figure out.